Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and we are about to get started with an episode of Within the Trenches, True Stories, the 911 Dispatchers Who Live Them. We are currently live here at NENA 2022. But first, before we get started with everything, and my guest here, Andrea with Carbyne. Hello.
Hi, everybody.
We are going to start it up with a word from our sponsors, as always.
At InDigital, we know that public safety professionals hold themselves to a high standard. In fact, standard doesn't do it justice. In over 25 years working alongside you, carrying millions of calls over our IP networks, your dedication has inspired us. That's why our ESI net goes beyond industry standards, not only I3 compliant, but designed to adapt to future development for a network you can count on when it matters most. Learn more at indigital.net.
Here in Greenville County, we have 8 different places where a 911 call can be answered.
It is the largest county in South Carolina. It's a challenge.
The type of information that a telecommunicator gets from Radius Plus is location-based technology. You can see where the caller is, if they have a medical issue, if they speak a different language. They're immediately able to text to that caller in their native language. It reduces response times because it immediately gets first responders where they need to be.
Carbyne, it's multimedia. You can get text, translate to whatever language, getting away with the legacy equipment and going into a cloud-based solution.
It's the first time in U.S. history that we have an EZNet through cloud-native call handling.
As a police officer, to have the victim go video, that's unheard of.
You're getting upgrades every month, not every year.
To schedule your free Carbyne demo, please visit carbyne.com/WTT.
If Within the Trenches has ever taught you something, open your eyes to what it is like to be a 911 dispatcher, or has inspired you to become one, then help support us and join our Patreon. Get exclusive bonus content, one-of-a-kind swag, discounts on merchandise, ad-free early access to new episodes, and much more. To join, please visit patreon.com/WTT podcast. And if you're an industry partner, we have something for you as well. And now, for the show.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned. Hey, what is going on? Once again, this is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and we are here live for NENA 2022 out of Louisville, Kentucky, and we are in the expo hall right now. They just opened up at about 10 o'clock, and there are people all over the place, man. It was crazy over here. I don't know how many people I talked to right off the bat, but it was pretty nuts, but a lot of fun, as always. And as I said at the beginning, I have my good friend here, Andrea with Carbyne.
Yes.
How's it going?
Good. I'm so excited to be here. This is the second national conference since, we started them back up again. And I mean, we are in full-fledged conference mode. So.
Oh, I know, man.
So many hugs so far already.
Right. Yes. People are coming up, but still kind of unsure sometimes. Like, you want a handshake,
right.
You want a fist bump, you want a hug. I'm like, come over here and bring it in for the real thing.
Right.
I'm
ready to connect.
Let's do this. Yes. We spent too much time, going through just nobody doing anything like that. There was no, interaction and stuff, unless it was from 6 feet away?
6 feet. Social distance.
Yes, exactly. Well, I am very happy to have you here. This live broadcast is sponsored by InDigital, as well as Rapid Deploy and Carbyne, but this is a Carbyne exclusive episode that we're doing here live from the conference, because we're going to learn some more about the company. But first, I want to know more about you. So, how did you get involved in public safety to begin with?
So my involvement in public safety actually started when I was a kid. So, I'm the daughter of a cop, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
Nice.
My dad retired last year. But when I was starting my journey to high school, I went to a magnet school that specialized in law-related studies, Advanced Technologies Academy, or ATEC. And I studied law there. So when I turned 16, my dad's like, there's this program, it's called the Explorer Program, and you should probably join it. And so I did. And I thought I was going to be a cop from the age 16. I remember when I turned 18, I wanted to test to be a cadet. And my recruiter was like, yeah, cadets are cool. and we're hiring like 6 of them, but there's this other really cool job called dispatch, and they make a whole lot more money than cadets. And we're hiring a whole lot more of them because it's just really cool. That's how he sold it to me at the time.
Oh, snaps.
They were hiring a lot more of them because they didn't have staffing. But
I mean, hey, that's the way to do it, right?
Exactly. Make it sound cool. That's what we got to continue to do, actually.
Yes.
So I applied. I actually, on the day of my graduation rehearsal was my orientation day with dispatch. And then I went and graduated and then waited for my actual start date. And at 19 years old, I became a 911 call taker and dispatcher for Las Vegas Metro Police Department.
What?
Yeah.
That is amazing. So, okay, so we started at the same age then.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people start around 18 or 19 when they're getting into dispatch and everything, which, a lot of people too will say, that's so young to start and this and that. I'm like, I mean, we got to do what we got to do, yeah. Right?
I do think it's a little young to start myself, and in hindsight, or I think that as an industry, we could do some more to help those young people coming in, like, give them financial literacy classes, because at 19 years old, I was making a salary that people used to, feed their families on. And no one taught me how to spend that money wisely.
You're like, let's go.
So yes, let's bring in these 18 and 19 years olds, but let's teach them how to be adults as well.
Exactly. So that's awesome that you had this experience and everything growing up. So with your dad, growing up as well, like, did you hear a lot about, even maybe some of those struggles? Maybe your dad didn't want to share some of those, but did you hear about any of them? Because a lot of times that people that I've spoken to as well in the past, that they come from families of law enforcement, they hear some of that stuff and then they get into it and then they're like, oh, I understand now.
Yeah. My dad he's one of those very strong, very proud people that don't really show emotion.
Yeah.
In his older age, he's starting to change a little bit. But when I was younger, I definitely did not see a lot of it. I saw him go through the academy and I saw how challenging it was for him. But then I saw him conquer it. And so that was what I got to see. But then when I joined the police department, our relationship kind of changed and took a turn to another level where we kind of got to talk to each other and share those struggles. And,
very nice.
I remember, even to this day when we have conversations about work and my mom's like, oh, here they go talking cop again, but I had that in him. I was able to have a sounding board and we got to talk in our 400 codes and share those stories and those struggles. And so I've always been very grateful of that relationship with my dad.
That's amazing. Yeah. That is always good to have that, because you also have that complete support,
absolutely
going on there to be able to talk back and forth and share different stories and such.
And it was a challenge. I remember when I was in dispatch training and I had anxiety about being his dispatcher. And the first time he got in foot pursuit on my channel, like it was scary, but I overcame it.
That's an interesting dynamic. And the reason I say that is because I worked with a lot of people who were married to officers that were out there. And I used to ask them, when you hear, emergency traffic going on and everything, how do you deal with that? And they would tell me, I have faith in knowing that, he or she, whichever, knows how to do their job. And they have folks out there to protect them as well. And we're in here watching or listening rather. So I could see the same thing with you as well.
Yeah, it's why I became a trainer, quite honestly. I had a trainer who, when she was helping me work through those challenges, was like, don't you want to be the one who's fully trained to help your dad when he has that emergency? And I'm like, yeah, I trust me. So when it became time to become a trainer, I thought about that situation. I want to help you get people as trained as possible so that I can trust them with my dad's emergency. Nice. And that's one of the reasons why I became a trainer.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Now, when you first started out, so, you had this training and everything, and, you kind of knew like the radio, all of that stuff going in, but was it ever overwhelming in the beginning?
It definitely was. I'm an empath and I feel all the emotions. And so learning how to compartmentalize was a challenge for me. And, I will never, ever forget the first time that I had a call that truly affected me. And it was a baby drowning. And I will never forget it. And I will never forget having to meet with our employee assistance program and figure out what I was feeling, because I didn't understand it. Again, I was like 19 years old, 20 years old, maybe. Yeah. And these emotions were new to me because it didn't affect me necessarily. It was a caller that I didn't know, but it affected me. And learning how to compartmentalize and put it away so that I could take the next call was very hard at the beginning. And honestly, I think hats off to all dispatchers and call takers, because once we learn how to do that, it's really hard to undo it. Yes. And I'm learning that now that I'm no longer in the 911 center, learning how to undo that compartmentalizing and how to feel my emotions is really, I'm still unpacking a lot of stuff with my therapist. Oh man. But from my 14 years in the center, but it was a journey.
I've been out for going on 9 years. Next month will be 9 years that I've been out of dispatch and doing this full time and all. And there's still some times where I'm talking to friends or family or something, and these calls will start coming out. Yeah. And then I'll just sit there for a moment and they'll say, "Are you all right?" I'm like, I haven't thought about that call in years, and that just came out of nowhere. Yeah. And that's one of the things you got to find out how to. I think talking about it more. The more you talk about certain things, the easier it is, right? Absolutely. And which is why we have discussions like we're having now. Yes. And sharing these stories and what it's like. That power of storytelling is very impactful. And people hearing about you and your struggles or anything like that definitely helps others, because it helps others know that they're not alone.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of breaking the stigma in law enforcement in general, but specifically in dispatch. We pride ourselves on being the chaos controllers and the ones who, we get everyone home safe at the end of the night. And it's a big task to undertake. And if you're not allowing yourself to go through the emotions that come with that and talk about it, share those stories, those things become very heavy. And they sit there until one day, like you said, 9 years later, it comes up again in your mind. You haven't thought about it in a long time, and then you feel it all over again. Yeah. And so talking about it for me in particular really helps with the processing.
Now, where you were working at, how many people were on the floor working at a time?
So the minimum staffing for call takers during like the peak hours is about 20 call takers. And then we have the dispatchers, which was about 10 of those at one time. So we had about 30 people on the floor at one time. What? Yeah. My center is a very big center and very busy, as you can imagine, the Las Vegas metropolitan area. And so we had a lot going on all the time.
Lori Henriksen here says Andrea's awesome.
Hi, Lori. Lori is awesome. Lori worked at my center with me, and she's doing amazing things for the future of 911, the youth that are coming into 911.
Yes, that molding that next generation that's coming in. And man, that...
yeah, it's a lot.
This is awesome. Yeah, no, it's really good to have you on here and to learn more about you and everything. Now, early on in your career, what were some of those earlier calls that you remember?
Ooh, there are a few. We always have those ones. One that will never ever leave me. I told you the baby drowning. Yes. But the other one was my first ever suicidal caller. And, it's almost a full circle story, because I know we'll talk about Carbyne later. Yeah. But I think back to this story and to what I'm involved with now with Carbyne and how it could have really changed the situation. Right. And now this story is, like I said, it'll stick with me, but it's not one of the sad ones with a sad ending. It actually had a very positive ending. But I was in training, a call taking training, and a doctor called, a therapist, and said that his patient was suicidal and he didn't know where he was. So after I got all the information that I needed or that I could get from his doctor, I called him and he answered. And we talked as I tried to figure out where he was for an hour without finding out where he was. And, we did the ping on his phone, and it gave us a general location with an uncertainty of 4,000 meters or something crazy like that. And we talked for another hour, and he clearly wanted help. But he did not know, he didn't want to give his location. And I remember there was a series of him hanging up and me calling back and him hanging up. And at one point I wasn't able to get him back on the phone. And then it was time for me to go to lunch. And as much as I wanted to stay there and try and get this guy back on the phone, my trainer's like, "No, girl, we got to go. We got to go to lunch. Yes. You've done everything that you can do. We're hopefully going to get officers to him." So I left and I went to lunch, and I went, and my mom, when she sees this, she's going to remember, I went to my car and cried. And I called my mom because I'm like, this guy's going to die. And I've spent, 2 hours on the phone with him now.
Yeah.
And we still couldn't find him.
Wow.
And I got back from lunch after I got myself together, and the supervisor called me in the office and told me that he called back. And because he called back asking for me on 911, they were able to get a pretty good anti-alley for him.
Wow.
And got his location and literally drove up on him. And they were able to get him safely into custody and some much needed medical attention.
Wow. That is amazing, because there's a lot of times where we don't get that closure.
Exactly.
Right? We don't know, or that person doesn't call back, and we just never know.
Yeah, never know.
This one is one of the rare good outcomes where you came back, because I can only imagine that they called you into the office and you're probably thinking right away,
what happened? This was bad.
Something bad happened,
This
of
was
course.
bad.
But it ended up being something good.
And for all of the bad ones that I do have, for all of those bad endings, I will always remember this one, because that for me was a moment where I was like, man, I made an impact in somebody's life.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah.
I love that. Damn, that is really good.
Yeah.
Now, I want to kind of talk about your transition over. So, how long were you in dispatch before you ended up making the transition? But also, how hard was it to leave? And the reason I ask is because when one of the companies that's actually here at the conference, and one of the sponsors in digital, when I started working for them, or when the opportunity came up, it took me a few weeks to finally decide, yeah, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I was going to be betraying my team.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with how hard it was.
Yes.
The hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
The hardest thing I've ever done. So I joined the police department when I was, like I said, 19 years old.
Yes.
I was a 911 call taker, dispatcher, CTO, operations supervisor. I mentored and trained new supervisors. I was part of the Police Explorer program as an advisor. I sit on their board of directors. I grew up in this police department. These people are my family and friends. And when the opportunity came to leave, I get emotional thinking about it, because I relive those emotions.
Yeah.
Because there was a point where I knew it was the right decision to make, but I didn't know how to make it, because I didn't know how to leave my friends and my family.
Very true. Yes.
So the opportunity actually came up at a conference, APCO 2021 in San Antonio. I had lunch with my now boss, Brett, and I asked him a bunch of questions about what he does.
Yeah.
And he, presented me with the opportunity, and it took me a month to even click apply.
Wow.
A month of talking with my mentors and my family and trying to decide if it was the right decision to make, how I could make this decision. And then all of the logistical things like my retirement and, my longevity and all of the job security of a government job.
Exactly. Yes.
It was a very difficult decision to make. And I'll tell you the moment when I knew it was time. My good friend Tyrell Morris, who might be a friend of the show.
Oh, yes.
He came to my 911 center and did a presentation of his show up presentation and about defining excellence. And in the presentation, he said, sometimes the agency's box is not big enough for the employee to spread their wings. And that's when I knew there was nothing wrong. I loved what I did. I still love, what I did as a supervisor and in 911 and being in the trenches with the people.
Yes.
And I miss it dearly. But there was a point where I realized that I wanted to touch a bigger portion of this industry. And my passion, my idea of success had changed. I used to think success was rising through the ranks, becoming director, and maybe that will come back to play one day.
Yeah.
But it changed for me. Success started to look like making an impact in people's lives.
Yes.
Gaining recognition for frontline dispatchers and call takers, working to get them reclassified, providing life-saving technology to 911 centers so that we can start to save more lives. And so when I heard that very simple phrase, I was like, you know what? He's absolutely right. And I clicked apply on the on the application, and then it was like a whirlwind of an interview process, and it seemed very long and very fast at the same time. And I'll never forget the day I got my offer, and I was home, and I got to see the offer and celebrate with my husband and my family, and enjoy that, just having that with us. And then I went to work the next day and gave my notice.
Oh, man.
And it was the scariest thing I've ever done.
I know the feeling, because when I finally decided, I walked in, and I would always talk to the deputy director, and I would say, every shift, if she was there, I would say, "Today's the day. I'm quitting. Today's the day." And she would go, "Are you serious?" And I'd go, "Nah, I'm just playing. I'm going in." But then finally, when it happened, I shut the door and I walked in, and she goes, "Ricardo, is today the day?" And I just sat there, and she sat up, and I said, "Did you notice that I shut the door?" And she goes, "Oh no." And I said, yeah, I'm putting in my 2 weeks notice. And she goes, "Well, you beat me to the punch." And I said, "Oh." And I said, "Wait,
what?
Why?" Because immediately I'm thinking, "Oh, am I getting fired?"
Right.
And she goes, "I put in my 2 weeks notice a couple hours ago, and I was going to try to tell you first." So,
well, talk about serendipity.
Right. Yes. Yeah. We both put it in the same day.
Yeah.
But
I was really afraid to, my leadership team, they were my mentors, and
Yes.
they still are really great friends of mine. And I was afraid to disappoint them. But what I found out is when I talked to all of them, everyone first wasn't surprised.
Yeah.
Because they also saw something in me that, I have people that were like, you were never going to end your career here.
Yes.
You were always going to go somewhere else. And when I took my 2 weeks notice to my director, I wanted to give it to her myself. And she told me, she's like, "I know you're going to be amazing there." She wasn't surprised. And she's like, "You're going to, and I'm very proud of you." And that helped me in the next coming weeks of transitioning out. That really getting their blessing helped me a lot.
Oh, that is good. That is good to have that support system and everything, because you're right. When you're going out, when you're leaving, you're leaving your family.
Yeah.
You've been there with them, probably most likely more than you've been there with your actual family.
You're so right.
Yeah, your family there. And
yes.
I mean, that's the way it was for me as well. And it was hard to go. But what ended up changing my mind for me was the company that I ended up going to work for. They found me through what I'm doing here, through the podcast. And they were telling me, "We don't want you to stop. We want you to keep going. We're going to support what you're doing." So for me, it was leaving ended up being, I'm going to be able to do more, hopefully, for dispatch as a whole by continuing to do what it is that I'm doing. And, talking to people there at work as well, everybody understood, because they were saying kind of the same thing. "We know you're not going to finish here.
Right.
You've got other stuff that you're doing, so please go and do what you're going to do." So, yes, I had that support system as well, and it's awesome to hear that you two had that.
Yeah, it's amazing. And on what you were just saying, I had a vision of coming into my new company and being able to do these things, these engagement efforts that I wanted to do, but I didn't know what that looked like. And so it was a true blessing, honestly, to come in and have a leadership team within my, go out there and talk to people, apply to conferences, go speak at them. And, not on, my presentations aren't about Carbyne.
Yeah.
My presentations are about how to help 911. And if somebody happens to want to talk to me about Carbyne, that's a win for my company.
Right.
But my company supports my passion of helping this industry. And that's what really is like made me know that I made the right decision.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So Lori ended up saying hello back. Dominique Mathis is up in here saying good morning. Hello,
Hi,
Dominique. How's it going?
Hi.
How's it going? Founder of Hello 911.
Yes, and doing big things.
Hell yeah. Hell yes. So as we're talking about Carbyne, let's transition over.
Yes.
So who is Carbyne rather? Who is Carbyne and what do they do?
So there are a lot of fancy terms about what Carbyne is, who we are and what we do. We're the global provider of location services in 911 and a cloud native system. But when I talk to my people in 911, I like to keep it more simple.
Yeah.
We provide really, really cool life saving technology and tools into the 911 center.
Very nice.
So in the form of multimedia, so Carbyne provides, first of all, location services. So the days of relying on that Annie Alley, like in my suicidal man story, and looking for that uncertainty, and we provide a solution to that. We give you the location of the caller's actual device. And in addition to that, we have the ability to start a video session where the 911 call taker can see the live video stream of the caller, and they can show you what they're reporting.
Nice.
We also provide the ability to send pictures to the 911 call taker and have a silent chat, which is different from a text to 911. It's truly a silent chat feature for when people are in trouble. And then we have the ability to connect all that information to the responder in the field. You can send a link to the person that's actually responding, and they can see the video that's the video session that you have up, or see the photos that are being delivered as well. And the location, because how many times are situations dynamic and moving, and your responder can actually see that map as well. So Carbyne is really changing the game, and we are a cloud native company. We do host our solution on the cloud, which is also that next gen 911 game changer. And we're bringing amazing technology to 911 call takers.
Nice. Now, thinking about your time in dispatch and what it is that you're doing now, and the type of technology that's being provided for those in the chair, I mean, what does that mean for you?
So, man, how I wish that we had this technology when I was under the headset. And even after I was no longer under the headset, when I was an operations supervisor up on the bridge, I think about how many pings we do daily, like trying to find people. In Las Vegas, there's an avid hiking community because we're surrounded by mountains.
Yeah.
And the number of times that we're set out to do a search and rescue, and we just need to find where they are, being able to send them a link and have them click it, and it gives us their exact location instead of calling the phone company and having them try to do a ping and getting a wide range of where they could be. It's things like that it's just like, wow, I wish I would have had this when I was in that seat.
See, that's one of the things that I talk to people all the time, and I say, I'm kind of jealous, of those who are in dispatch now because of all the technology and everything. And I say jealous because of the fact that I want to be the one to be able to apply all of that's going in to help save someone, because I remember being in there and not being able to find someone,
being helpless,
and just being devastated.
Absolutely.
You don't know where they're at. But then it also helps though, because then you got to think on your feet, and you got to think out of the box.
You
and
do.
Say like, okay, if you don't know where you're at, like find a piece of mail with the address on it. You start going through all of these different things, but now it is so much easier.
And the technology exists, right? Like our CEO Amir, his story is of why he started this company is incredible as well. He was a victim of a crime. He was robbed on a beach, and when he called for emergency services to come help him, they didn't know where he was. And he, in his mind, it's like, how is it that I can order an Uber and they can drive right up to me? I can order a pizza and they can deliver it directly to my location.
Right.
But when I call for help in a time of crisis, they don't know where I'm at.
Right. If
the technology already exists. And so the mission of Carbyne, every person counts, is something that I truly believe in. And that's what sold me on joining this company as well, is I believe in everything that we're doing, and I'm so excited to be a part of it, bringing this technology to 911 centers. I get so excited about it because it just, I don't know, it's my passion. And going into
I can see it. You're just like boosting the passion. It's awesome. I love it.
I love the fact that there are people out here that are currently using this technology, and it's already saving lives, and it's going to continue to save lives.
Yeah. We've been sharing stories, every month with different things and, incidents and situations that are going on where people are getting saved and such.
Yeah.
And through this type of technology, it's just awesome to hear.
It's so great to hear. It is. It's, and I think about the technology that exists, like we talked about. One of my friends, his name's Brad Flanagan. He's at Pitkin County in Colorado. He told me something not too long ago. He said, in 5 years, the people we're going to be hiring in our 911 centers are the 8th graders of today.
Oh, man.
Think about that, right? That's what I did. I'm like, whoa.
Whoa. Yes, whoa.
The 8th 8th graders of today are going to be under the headset in 5 years.
Wow.
So what do they know? They know this. They know how to swipe on a phone. They know TikTok. They know video. These kids will pull out their phone and record something before they call anybody. So if we start using the technology that they are already familiar with, it's going to help us attract and attain them when it's time to start hiring them. Exactly. If you tell them that they're going to have to sit here and type and do pings
like
and
typing, what's that?
What's that?
We can't just use our brains.
We can't just speak it,
Yes.
So that's what's the really cool thing about all of the technology that's coming into the 911 centers is it's really getting us ready for that future generation of 911. The 8th graders of today.
Damn. That trips me out.
It's pretty crazy to think about.
When I was in dispatch, I think it was probably about a year before I left. Or maybe it was the last year that I was there. Anyway, I was supervisor, and the two girls that were on my team, Whitney and Jill, I'm using your first names, because if you end up seeing this, you know what I'm talking about or what I'm going to say. So I'm working on main radios, and they're in the other spots. They're on phones and backup phones and radios. And we were talking about when we graduated, and I ended up saying, well, I graduated in 99, and they started laughing. And I said, why are you guys laughing? And they said, well, we were both in 5th grade during that time. I was like,
right? Did you feel old?
Yes. Yeah. Like my back almost immediately started hurting. I was like, what the heck, man? So, yeah, I talk to them about that sometimes. I'm like, that's messed up. You're right. Yeah, that's interesting. The 8th graders are going to be coming in.
8th graders are going to be under the headset in 5 years.
Yes.
It's crazy to think about.
But it's good because a lot of us who got into this, we wanted to make change. We want to leave this profession, this industry, better than what it was when we got here.
Absolutely. Yes. At my old agency, and on our recruiting team, one of our recruiting councils, we had a campaign that said, replace yourself. So you should be actively trying to find people to replace you because you're going to leave.
Right.
And in that, you need to make it a better place for them to come and work.
Exactly.
So the antiquated technology that we're used to needs to change.
Yeah.
It needs to change because at the end of the day, the public has an expectation. If they can order an Uber to where they are standing, they should be able to call 911 and you know where they are.
Exactly. I feel you. Well, it has been awesome to have you on here and to learn a bit about you as well as the company that you work for. As we go into the wrap-up of this, a couple things. One, for those who are maybe on the fence of wanting to implement new technology, and because you come from the chair and now are in this space as well, what is some advice that you have for those folks who are still kind of on the fence? Like, should we do this? Should we implement this in our own center?
Yeah. So 2 things. If you haven't seen me at a conference, I'm probably coming to a conference near you to present my Be a Champion of Change training. So in that, it discusses this exactly, how to embrace change, because that's why we're not implementing it. We're afraid of change. The 2 things that people hate is change and staying the same, right? And that's the 2 things that are also imminent in 911. Things are going to stay the same forever, and then one day they're going to change. And it's usually very fast when it happens. So you have to learn how to lead change, especially the leaders in the 911 center. You have to be at the forefront of change. You have to get your team members, your staff, your leadership to understand that change isn't always a bad thing. Change is sometimes a good thing. And particularly when it comes to technology, it's not a matter of do you want to at this point? It's happening.
Yeah, it's happening.
It's happening. The change is already here and it's coming to a center near you. Right. So be a leader in that change. If it's going to happen, let's make it happen the way we want it to happen, right?
Yes.
So think about what is going to be most beneficial to your employees, to your center. What's going to be mission critical for you guys? What are your pain points and what solution? Because there's can help you with that. For example, our one of our solutions is a call handling system where there's so many different tools and pieces of technology. You end up having 5 and 6 screens up, but with our solution Apex, it's all in one screen. You don't have to click anywhere else. You can see it all in one place. So think about what your center pain points are and figure out how you can be in charge of implementing those changes. Make it your own. So that's the advice I would give.
Nice. Excellent. Well, how can people find more about Carbyne and also maybe to get a hold of you if they have any questions?
Yes, please connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Andrea King. I am a networker. I love making new friends. And again, I'll be at several conferences coming up. So if you see me, don't hesitate to say hi and give me a hug. None of this handshaking and fist bumping.
Right, bring it in for the real thing.
The real thing. Also, you can find more about Carbyne by going to our website, carbyne.com. Or you can check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. We have a very active social media presence. Our company loves connecting with people as well. And if you're at NENA, please stop by our booth. I would love to say hi to you. And lastly, especially if you're at NENA, please look for one of these bracelets. If you don't have one, come get them. You can get one from Sarah Weston and 9-1 Wonder Woman or at the Carbyne booth. We are hosting a happy hour with 9-1 Wonder Woman tomorrow. And we're going to be giving out the Wonder Woman of the Year award. So we would love to see anyone who's here at NENA there so we can connect even further.
Yes, perfect. And it's booth 123 is where the bracelets are at and everything. At least over here with Within the Trenches Media as well as 9-1 Wonder Woman Inc. We're here sharing this space.
And we're at 1007 is where you can find Carbyne.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Ricardo.
This has been awesome.
Yes.
For those who are watching and listening, if you have any comments, questions, or you want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, and that's going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. If you're looking for any bonus content, you can check us out here, patreon.com/WTT podcast. This episode has been sponsored by Digital Rapid Deploy as well as Carbyne, but this was a Carbyne exclusive live broadcast from the 2022 NENA National Conference in Louisville, Kentucky, right here from the Expo Hall.
Yes.
You can see this on Facebook, as well as LinkedIn, YouTube, as well as Twitter. And then you can listen 24/7 for the flagship show Within the Trenches podcast on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.
And we will see you in the next one.